Hello, everybody. I want to wish you a happy 2025. Can you believe it's 2025? I was thinking at New Year's, Y2K was like 25 years ago. And I just really couldn't believe that I'm that old. Um, but with that comment, I just want to say happy 2025. I'm happy to be here starting the year off with some interesting information, some exciting news brewing. You may see some interesting posts if you hit my Instagram. Um, but with that said, I do want to highlight a little bit about what I'm going to cover in this episode and talk about. It's just me tonight, so you'll notice it's a little bit more of a personal background. I don't have the big green screen going. It's just me and my dead animals. Hope you don't mind hunting. You can see them behind me a little bit, but this is the only room I'm allowed to have dead stuff in, so I tend to work in here a lot, and it's getting a little crowded. But I digress. I want to share with you the power of GIS and current events tonight. The current event that I'm talking about is the fires that are burning in LA. I'm going to cover a little bit about that. So there is information about Bigfoot tonight if you stick around, but I do want to cover and highlight um, another one of my passions, which is what GIS can do and how it can help people understand what's happening and how powerful maps can be and data in real time for emergency and disaster events. Because it's great to see, the research we're doing with Bigfoot, but I also want to show everyone that's watching what what powerful tools we really have at our hands and what we can do with them. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. And then after we get through looking at really the devastation, unfortunately, that's happening in LA right now and understanding how many people it's impacting by looking at it from a map view, we're going to jump into a quick analysis, a quick and dirty analysis of the 200 or so sightings that and reports that were submitted in 2024 to the Bigfoot Mapping Project. And what I've done with that, spoiler alert, kind of, is I've taken those out of the data set and done strictly 2024 hotspots. So if you want to see where Bigfoot has been active over the last, oh, I don't know, year, just about year, stick around because that's what I'm going to show you in the analysis that I've done. Amongst other analysis, we'll look at some word clouds, we'll look at all the photos that have been submitted, about 83 photos. Some are better than others. And then we can, look at those hot spots and zoom around and see, if they correspond to what you expected, what I expected, and if there's any surprises there, which I'm excited to share that with you. So let's dive into the map now for LA. What I was telling you about, I think it's going to put things into perspective, and I really am glad that I can share this kind of information with you because there's a lot of stuff in the news, and I find that for myself anyway, uh, being able to access data streaming in from unbiased, authoritative sources, especially in situations like I've done before, the Lahaina fires, um, this situation, different spills and chemical spills that I've mapped and talked about over the years with the Bigfoot Mapping Project. I just want to show you what GIS can help with. I'm really passionate about Bigfoot and GIS, and I think that putting this information into context with the map can really help. So, we should see my screen pop up here in a second. Excellent. So what we're looking at now are the fire perimeters that are burning in LA for the live fire situation that's going on. And you can see just north of Pasadena, uh, just northwest of Rancho Cucamonga, and then over in the Santa Monica Mountains, northwest of Santa Monica near Malibu. We have a lot going on. And just to give you an idea, this fire here in the east, the furthest, the bridge incident, is 56,000 acres. Okay. Uh, let me throw a number at you. For those of you who may not know, because I'm going to talk about this in a minute about how many people this is really affecting. I have some population density data that I'll plot on the map. There's 640 acres in a square mile. Okay, so if you do the math, 56,000 divided by 640. I wish I was that quick, but 56,000 divided by 640, we're talking about 87 square miles, okay? Remember that number. We'll round up to 90, right? For easy math. And the other one here is about half that, maybe 45 square miles, and about the same over here near Santa Monica in Malibu. So, uh, what we're looking at is those fire perimeters. So that's everything inside has burned or is burning. And another bit of information that I'll be able to plot for you is the NOAA fire detection data set, right? So now we can see hotspots. What's happening now? There's no hotspots over here in the east. So we're going to focus here. You can see all of these hotspots. And if you really want to understand, it tells you when they were detected, right? So this hotspot that I just selected was detected today at 1935 Universal the Greenwich time, basically. So we've got a lot going on east of Thousand Oaks, Santa Monica Mountain. Look at all these hot spots. That is a lot of hot spots. Um, and not many roads in or out. You can see as you zoom in, right? This road goes right through all the hot spots, right through the fires. It's pretty dangerous. So, next, what I really want to talk about and show you are all the people that are affected, because we're seeing those stories on the news and it looks terrible. But really, how do we understand um, what's happening to all of these people? And that's where I brought in the population density map here. And when you look at this map here, you see a lot of colors. What does that mean? So where you see the people per square mile purple, right? We're going to look at that is 28,000 people per square mile. Okay. Remember, I said this fire over here that we're looking at in the center of the screen is 90 square miles. So if you do the math, granted, it's not covering, all purple, but these are quick numbers. 90 times 28,000 or greater. It's 2 million people. That sounds like a lot. So smoke, not everything over there is on fire, but that's how many people are going to be affected, right? Smoke, uh, dangerous situations, etc. So look, this is LA. You can see all the purple. So it's quite, quite a big area, and a small portion of that is purple under that map. So under this boundary here. So we've got definitely thousands of people that are impacted by the fire itself here, and also near Malibu, right? Over here in this area in the very, very southeast corner of this perimeter. So there is a lot going on. It's an evolving situation, but I just thought that I'd take 10 minutes, maybe a little over, to really put things in perspective of maybe what you've been wondering about or trying to understand from what you're seeing in the news. And I think that perhaps this helps you understand. Another way to put it in context is tax parcels, right? So maybe that's an easy way to understand homes and houses affected, right? So what I did was go and get all the tax parcels nationwide. Um, and here you go. You can see when I zoom in, those are tax parcels. Those are homes, buildings, schools, parks, etc. that are all within this fire perimeter. I'm going to move it down beneath the fire perimeter so you can really see the overlap there. Um, so you can imagine how people are coping here, right? Look at all these tax parcels that are essentially gone. That's insane to really think about. It's hard to see. I'm going to make them a little more visible. Um, but just something serious to talk about, right? Look at that. Insane. The whole chunk was impacted by that fire. And if we go over to Malibu, we can see the same. There's going to be a lot of look at all these homes that are just impacted, right? Golly, that's insane. Um, Palisades High School, the Palisades fire is awful. Um, Unreal. But you guys, I just wanted to share with you again a current event that I thought it was relevant to talk about. Um, I look at it through the lens of GIS, and you can see, I mean, clearly, look at all these homes. You know, these every square you see on here is a home or a tax parcel, which means there's likely something built on it, and there's just widespread devastation here as we scroll through. Um, it's just another way of understanding what's going on. All of this information, for the record, is publicly available. I just, it's wild, right? What's really happening uh, in and around LA. So, um, there's a bit of information for you to take with it. I hope it helps you understand what's going on and puts into perspective how many people are really affected. And for one last glance, I will share the population density in relation to those fires. So where you see purple, there are 28,000 people or greater in those areas per square mile. And to give you some scale, we just did this fire here is 56,000. Excuse me. This one is 56,000 acres. I'll zoom in a little bit. This one here is 14,000. So we'll do the math really quick so you can get a scale reference for square miles. 14,000 divided by 640 is 20 square mile, 21 square miles, just about. So that right here. That's 20 square miles, right? So look at that purple. There's thousands of people affected. Thousands. Um, so yeah, that's what's going on currently. It's January 10th. I'm pre-recording this. I just want to let you know the timestamp. So in case things change, you might think it's a little inaccurate, but I'm pre-recording, so I'm recording tonight. Just that snapshot is insane. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and fingers crossed we get everything under control, and there's not too much more devastation, and everyone that's affected, my heart goes out to them. I can't imagine what it's like to be caught in a fire like that and lose everything. I went through Hurricane Harvey here in Houston, so I do understand a little bit of it, but I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So I think with this podcast post, I'll probably also do my best to find the best way to support people there, and I'll share that in the show notes. Um, but I felt it was an important thing to share what's going on, and put it in perspective, for everyone. So I'll shift gears from the serious note to 2024. It was an interesting year. It was a great year. We had a hell of a lot of fun doing the podcast. We had some great maps. We had some great guests. We had some great reports. So I just wanted to look at that since it's the first show since the new year. I thought it would be good to do a little recap and look back and do some analysis on a lot of the sightings and reports that we received. And I think that you guys may enjoy the show. It's definitely a shorter show, which you know what? Maybe we'll see how this goes because the last few shows I've done have been kind of long form, and it's a 2-hour show is a lot to get through. So I'm gonna try and throw a lot of information at you in a short time here. I'm trying to keep it around a half hour actually. So we're almost already halfway through the show. So um, what you see on the screen here now is a map of all of the sightings that we received in 2024. Um, and there's a lot, actually. There's about 200 throughout North America. I'm just solely focused on North America, just for sake of the audience that mainly listens to this podcast. So take a look, all the way up through Alberta and British Columbia, all the way down to uh, you know, I guess that's in Texas. I was gonna say McAllen. I just make sure we were still in the States. So all the way down to our southern border. Um, pretty crazy. So the distribution's very interesting, but these are just points. So how can they, how can we digest these patterns? What do we really get from just looking at these points? Unless we click around, we can read everything. That's great. I think it's good information. Reading the sightings is very interesting. Understanding what people found, what they experienced, what their thoughts are. That's all captured when you just click. If you go to bigfootmap.com and you hit either of the maps, you can see, um, all that information just available as usual with all the other sightings in the database. So, but what I've done by culling these out of the database and filtering them out, just all the sightings that occurred in 2024, not that were reported in 2024, right? Because they could be reported from various years, all throughout, history, I guess you'd say. I pulled these out specifically sightings that occurred in 2024 because I wanted to understand what are the hot spots? Where in the last year, where was the hottest area where there was Bigfoot activity? And this is a good way to show it. So I made a layer that I'm going to turn on now of hotspots. Here we go. Here we go. So now we have a good idea of where the densest areas of Bigfoot sightings are. Right. So we've got up in the Northeast between New York and Vermont. There's a good check mark there of hot spots of sightings. We'll zoom in and take a look. I'm just going to highlight all the ones that I see on the map that look pretty good. There's some in, looks like Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. Then we've got near Louisville in Kentucky, Knoxville on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina there into South Carolina into Georgia. And then also East Texas, the Arklatex as it's called, Arkansas, Texas, and Northwest Louisiana. That's an interesting hot spot. Let's see. Then we've got one in Northeast Kansas, Northwest California. I skipped over the one near Phoenix. Uh, central western in between Bend and Eugene, Oregon, uh, Portland, Gifford Pinchot, and then up in Washington, um, in the Cascades in the in Olympic National Park, and then also on the east side near Spokane. Wow, what a year! This is very interesting. Before I dive down, though, I do want to say one other thing. Uh, these hotspots, keep in mind, are relevant to the number of sightings in the data set. So they're going to look different than, the 14,000 sightings that we have in the regular map, right? So these hotspots are relevant to just the sightings in the data set. So they are going to be, since there's only 200 sightings that occurred in 2024. I say only, that's actually quite a lot. I'm quite excited about that number. But the areas they cover are a little bit sparser, right? So the hotspots are going to look bigger because they cover more area, just because of the relationship between the points in the data set, right? They're not going to be as stacked near each other because this is just a subset of the full data set, right? So keep that in mind when you're looking at the map. It's going to behave differently and be represented differently on the map. I just want to highlight that because it's going to, you need to understand that when you're digesting what you're seeing on the screen, right? So once again, sparser points means larger groups that cover more area, and the hotspots are going to look different than they do on a map with more sightings that are closer to each other, where they're denser, and the spots are hotter in a more localized area, right? So, i.e., the more data, the more precise your information in your map's going to be. Um, so let's go ahead and look at my home state, New York. We've got a lot going on here. So why? What's going on? Well, we've got uh, Adirondack Park is looking like a pretty good hot spot all the way over into Montpelier and over into New Hampshire. So this is Alex Pettikov's world here, his neck of the woods. I'll have to send him some of this information if he doesn't watch this podcast. This will be a good test. We'll see if he reaches out to me. I'll let this podcast marinate for a little while, and we're at 23:20 is the timestamp. So we'll see if he makes it this far into the episode. Nobody tell him that I'm calling him out, though. I just want to see if he watches it, and then if he asks me about the New Hampshire sightings, and if he doesn't, maybe I'll tell him about them. Let's see. What else do we have going on here? Let's see. Montpelier, Adirondack Park, and I'm Green Mountain National Forest. This all makes sense, but it's interesting that you know there's much more activity than I expected for, the span of a year. So we're going to zoom in a little more, and I might change the base map so I can understand, these boundaries a bit better of where the forests are and things. There we go. All right. So what's happening here? Elevation. That's a good one. This one's about 3,900 feet near a creek, snowy mountain. I just happened to zoom into this one first. No preference, honestly. And I'm not going to go through every 200 sightings. I'm just going to click around and pique my curiosity here. I was camping on Indian Lake, and this reporter was laying in a tent and heard a loud yell and scream. It came from far away, the direction of Bald Mountain. Was like nothing you have ever heard before. Was maybe female. Set off the loons on the lake. Lasted 10 seconds, maybe. Very interesting. That's unusual. What's else? What else is happening? So here's Indian Lake for the record. Here, you guys can see it if you're not familiar with the area. You can see where my pointer is. So it came from the east, from where this person was camping. Um, okay, so that was on, what's the date here? July 20th. And then July 26th. No information submitted, no description. Okay. This local area, what's happening over here? July near Glens Falls, October 24th. So 3 months later, 2.5, there was rocks thrown at people watching the Northern Lights. That's interesting as well. Now let's go all the way up, stay in New York, and we'll go to the northern part. What's happening here? A month later, after the Northern Lights incident, somebody went for a ride to the area that they had a sighting, and they took a pic and zoomed in and found a face. Well, let's see this picture. What report number is this? I'm going to go back over here, go to my surveys. We're going to go find that picture. I hope it's a good one. All the way up at the top. Here's the picture that they're referring to. That's a tough one for me. That's a tough one for me. You guys will have to let me know in the comments what you think. I struggle with blob squatches, but I understand how difficult it is to get good pictures of wildlife in general. So I'm not going to be too critical, but that's a tough one to decipher there. It's pretty pixelated. Interesting, though. Interesting that there's a lot of activity, and then this person, within the reasonable time frame, had a something that they wanted to take a picture of. Very interesting. So that's that area. Let's go focus on another hotspot. Let's turn those back on. Okay. So this is the Adirondack hotspot, and it kind of merges with across the border over into the Green Mountains and the White Mountains in New Hampshire. What's happening there? And as I lean into my mic, I'm realizing I feel like Bob Ross, happy squatch, happy trees. For those of you that are listening, I'm trying to narrate as well as I can what we're looking at because I realize people listen and don't always watch on YouTube. So I'm doing my best. But I should mention that this podcast is, again, map viewing. So it's probably best if you want to get the most out of it to watch on YouTube. I just had that thought as I was scrolling around. So it's pretty informal tonight. But I'm excited to hear what people think in the comments. Let's see. We've got the first one going from west to east. Let's see what's happening here. This happened June 3rd. This person goes for a hike every morning in the forest near their home with their brother. They were about a half mile in the forest. And as a joke, their brother suggested doing a call like they see on other Bigfoot documentaries, not expecting to hear a response. And I guess they heard a response vocal. Yeah. That's interesting. So we've got an audible here down near Sullivan outside and Claremont there. June 30th, 27 days later, something very, very strong pounded 3 times on the side of my cottage at 1:30 a.m. and the cottage wall shook. That's insane. And you know what? Doug Highcheck has told me a story about this, I think, when he was in a cabin. I'll have to ask him to tell it to me again, but he's in Minnesota still. I think that would be that's an interesting correlation there, behavior. The woods are growing up very thick since this satellite photo was taken. I was hiking in the woods the previous day around my cottage. All right, let's go. I'm going to go back and find that photo. I think it's near Claremont. July 1st. Am I blind? Where are we? This should be just northwest of Claremont. Why is it not showing up on my other screen there? We're in Vermont, and we're looking for Claremont. Go back and look. Yeah, that's the one. We clicked on the right one. I don't see a picture. That's what's throwing me off. No picture. They said they took a picture, but darn it, they Didn't attach it. All right, let's look just on the periphery of the White Mountains here. What happened at the intersection of these highways? They found tracks near a building and a trash dumpster. Um, through the woods. They posted the video on Facebook. I wish they attached it here. Three bears in Wells River, Vermont. We are currently closed for the winter and want to report tracks. So they found tracks. No photo of the tracks. It's frustrating. It's still a cool report. Let's see here. Updated. They reached out to me. I remember this. They heard knocking at night before with purring and communicating sounds. We got heavy snowfall that night here in Lunenburg, Vermont. Due to the light dusting of snow in the prints, I cannot get a distinguished print. Frustrating. Still a good report. And that actually goes to show you, like, look, even though you might not be able to collect a ton of evidence, making a report still helps me and everyone looking at the map understand what's happening in the area. Imagine if the people that didn't get a photo, didn't get a clear print, felt like they didn't want to report. This hotspot wouldn't be recognizable on the map. So I just want to stop and highlight and say, look, every little bit of information counts, especially when you aggregate it together. Then we can really start to understand, what active areas are really lighting up on the map, right? Let's look at one more in this hotspot. I'd like to relay a couple more things, but I'm embarrassed. This person's embarrassed to report it, I guess. They were solo rock climbing Sugarloaf. I've been there. I got to the top after 3 hours on the wall. I hadn't made much noise, never yelling for bear. Minutes later, I was overwhelmed with the odor of dirty human, wet dog, and sewage. It went away in about a minute. So I would like to relay a couple more things about this, but I'm embarrassed to one and not sure if I should share the other. There are things I was surprised to find out about before when I started researching. Note to rock climb where I was, I'll have to go back to I did a quick export. Let me go back to a better map here. Let's see. Where were they? In the White Mountains. Here we go. This one's better. It got cut off on my other map. I was solo rock climbing Sugarloaf Mountain. I got to the top after 3 hours on the wall. I hadn't made much noise, never yelling for bear. Minutes later, I was overwhelmed with the odor of dirty human, wet dog, and sewage. It went away in about a minute, and soon I heard a large branch break. Thinking bear, I yell. Before leaving, I picked up trash hikers lost over the cliff edge. A couple minutes into that, I heard one hollow tree knock fairly close. I didn't know Bigfoots were in the Northeast and was a disinterested skeptic, but heard that and instantly thought Bigfoot. Not too concerned, I finished, got back down almost to the trailhead about an hour later, and heard one more distinct hollow knock way back up the mountain. Not having researched Bigfoot before, I started when I got home. Now I'm convinced I came in contact with one. Interesting, crazy. I'm 50. You're 50 in rock climbing? Dang. That's pretty awesome. I'm 38, and I don't think I could rock climb. And have been solo night climbing in the wilderness for 6 years and spent solo night climbing. Solo, let me read. I have to read this again. You're 50 years old and you're solo night climbing in the wilderness. This person is a badass. Spent a lifetime in the woods, mountain biking, hunting, fishing, etc. Never heard or smelled anything like that. Let's see what this website opens up. Cool. They put a bunch of good information here. So we're going to go back to that. I'd like to relay a couple more things about this, but I'm embarrassed about one and not sure if I should share the other. There are things I was surprised to find out about Bigfoot when I started researching. Note, to rock climb where I was, you hike a trail up the backside and rappel to the bottom, then climb up. The embarrassing part is I smoke cigarettes, and after I hike, you smoke cigarettes and you can still rock climb? Dang. And after I hiked to the top, I rested, made coffee, had a snack, and smoked a cigarette before I started climbing, rappelling the cliff. So finding out ancient Americans used tobacco and sage to interact with Bigfoot was intriguing. Very interesting. The other thing I'm not comfortable sharing at the moment, but it convinced me that they are so much more than an undiscovered animal species. I feel incredibly honored and humbled to have this encounter. Now I really want to know what they didn't want to mention. I really want to know. What did they post on Facebook? Uh, let's see. Okay, so it's just a report similar to what they posted, but it's just more about the location. Very interesting. The link is in the map, guys, if you wanna explore more. I don't wanna spend there's so many to click on, I don't want to, spend the whole show, and I said a half hour, I'm already almost 40 minutes, you know? I always go long, I'm a talker. That's what you guys get. If you watched a few episodes, you know by now, halfway an hour into the show, I'm like, "Okay, guys, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up," and then we wind up going for another hour, so, I'm just getting warmed up, I guess. Let's see. Um, this person, they're on the periphery of this hot spot. They live at 255 Chickville Road, and they've noticed over the past few weeks branches getting snapped out of nowhere, and these are up pretty high, about 10 to 15 feet. Uh, wow, very interesting. That's pretty high. All right, so that's just one of the hot spots I've focused on. I want to take a good uh, representation of what happened in 2024. Blue Ridge Mountains always stick out to me, and the Smoky Mountains. So let's go there. Let's see. Let's start from south and work our way north from west to east here. So this person saw a hazel colored Bigfoot walking right beside the pond. Interesting. Here we go. His wife and I were camping alongside the Appalachian Trail. We hung our bear bag in a tree. Good. About 50 yards away from us, even better, and settled down for the night in a tent. At 10:30 p.m., they heard the bear bag being ripped out of the tree, and they heard the crack of a limb. Um, sounded like it ran off on 2 feet. They unzipped the tent and shined the light out in the direction of the bear, what they thought was the bear, I guess, and immediately saw two large white eyes about 20 feet away in the bushes. It stood up much taller than a bear. That's crazy. Was staying in a cabin for the weekend. Multiple weird things that could not be figured out. Car alarms would go off, and cars would be. They'd hear things outside in the woods. I did something that I cut off these things when I didn't export. I'll have to go back to the master data set here. Let's see, where am I in this map over here? Blue Ridge near Knoxville. Blue Ridge near Knoxville. Let me close out. Hide table, Blue Ridge Mountains near Knoxville, Tennessee. And the one we were just reading happened near Natahala National Forest, just in between Rabun and Towns. Let's see. I'm struggling here because I didn't filter out. This is the master data set, and I should have filtered it. You guys get to watch a little behind the scenes. All right, there's Towns. Should be right. Fannin, Towns. There, I made a sharp hissing sound. Okay, so let's pick back up. They could hear the bear tearing up the bag about 100 yards away. They made a mental note of the location of this sound so they could find it later. They sat there for 45 minutes in the tent listening for noises when suddenly heard something sniffing behind my head on the other side of the tent. I made a sharp hissing sound to make the bear think I had sprayed my bear spray. I heard the bear run off, but it sounded like it ran off on 2 feet. They unzipped the tent and shined the light out in the direction the bear ran, and immediately saw two large white eyes about 20 feet away in the bushes. Stood up much taller than a bear and ran crashing through the bushes to my left. Sounds familiar to me. Reminds me of my encounter. I don't know how big it was because it was a dark body with a dark background. It immediately started breaking large limbs and hooting and howling, the classic howling that Bigfoot makes. Wow. The branches uh, it was breaking were huge. I felt no fear. I just watched it. He howled for about a minute before walking away. I ignored him and went towards the location our bear bag was torn apart. I found the bear bag and gathered up everything that was not chewed on. Looks like Bigfoot ate all of our freeze dried meals, but left all the candy bars. Pretty crazy. So I'm not going to read every sighting, right? I don't always enjoy um, uh, doing that because I try to stay more data focused. But when I zoom out here, I just want to say uh, that doing that as you're doing your research and reading through the reports in these hotspots, it can inform you of Bigfoot behavior, what's happening, uh, what's going on in these hotspots. When were these sightings in terms of temporally? What were they near each other in on the calendar? So this first one was June 20th, and then the Picky Eater Bigfoot was a month before that, not far apart, right? Look at this. We're looking at, I got a measure tool over here somewhere. Analysis. We're going to do a measure. No. Map tools. Let's do measurement. 40 miles apart over a month. Not impossible. Not improbable either. So, um, let's go up a little north. And I'm not going to read these. I'm going to look at dates and see how close in proximity and time they occurred. Date time February 3rd, July 15th. So this is 5 months apart. And over here, there's two more sightings in this hotspot. September 22nd and July 30th. So they're not that far apart, 60 days or so. So, there's a lot of activity going on. As you can see in 2024, we can understand Bigfoot behavior, but here's the point I wanted to make as I zoomed out earlier. How do we do this without clicking on all of the points, making our own notes? I mean, it's easier if you have your own research area and there's just a few new points. But look at, we've got 200 to get through, so we can understand how Bigfoot across the continent behaved. This is where it gets interesting. So I have the ability here to do some analysis, right, on these sightings throughout the year. So we have date and time of sighting. We have the distribution, just a nice histogram of when the most sightings occurred, and obviously this is by day, so this histogram's not great. I could do by month and maybe understand a little bit better. So, but you still get the idea how many sightings occurred on the same day. Two here, two occurred on January 2nd, and we can scroll down. You can see two on a few days occurred. Right. It's interesting. Three occurred on June 3rd. 3 July 24th. 3 these pick up through the late summer months. 3 3 all the way to October. 2 1 1 1 1 through the rest of the year. 2 and 3 in January. 3 occurred on January 3rd. So interesting. Most of the clustered activity date wise, we don't know where they are near each other, but it's interesting that there's a peak in late summer, early fall of the most sightings happening on the same day. It's an interesting way to look at it. Then we can travel down to color. What were the most popular colors of 2024 that people saw and witnessed Bigfoot? So, what did they report? Brown, not a surprise. 64 of the 200 or so reports that answered, or 150 that answered this question, reported a brown Bigfoot. 46 reported black. 21 reported dark. It's interesting. And probably dusky time when you couldn't distinguish colors. Can understand that. 8 people said it didn't apply. They didn't know. 8 people reported cinnamon as a color for Bigfoot in their reports. 5 people reported light. 4 people reported white Bigfoots. I kind of want to look at those later. Maybe I'll make a map of that where white Bigfoots were reported. 4 said fur. I don't know what color that is. 3 said unknown. 3 said long, and 2 people said one. So they must have filled the form out wrong. That's what you get with some data, right? 2 said reddish. 2 said brown black. 2 said hair. We're gonna skip those. 2 said blonde. 2 said blackish. Brown sandy 1, and so on, right? So very interesting results there. Height. We had 198 people answer this, and people said 0 to 2, so they didn't answer the question. 56 people said 6 to 8 feet. 50 people said 8 to 10 feet. We're going to ignore this outlier, and we're going to go with 6 to 8. So 6 to 10 feet. About 106 reports reported Bigfoot was 6 to 10 feet tall. There were 67 people who reported Bigfoot sightings or encounters where they were guessing the gender, the sex that Bigfoot, whether it was male or female that they saw, and 55 of them uh, asserted that they saw a male Bigfoot, and 12 reports were of a female Bigfoot. It's also very interesting. I'd like to look at those on a map and see the time of year, where were they close to each other, all those questions that these kinds of analysis make you wonder. But again, we're just looking at the year on the whole, right? Keep that in mind. The whole nother episode to drill down through all these numbers. Young Bigfoot in 2024. So happy birthday to the young Bigfoots in 2024 or 2023 if they were running around. I myself had a son born in 2023, so he's running around now. What do we have? We've got 167 people made a report on this question, and 145 of them said no, they didn't see any young Bigfoot, but 12 of them did with the parent, and 6 of them said yes without the parent. So maybe this informs us of how often Bigfoot gives birth, or how active the mating is, or what other behaviors can we start to discern from these types of numbers over a year, right? Vocalizations. There were 185 people in 2024 that reported hearing vocalizations. And of those, or excuse me, 101 of them said no, they didn't hear vocalizations. So I take that back. 84 people reported hearing vocalizations in 2024. Footprints, 71 people reported finding footprints in 2024. Wood knocks, 85 people reported hearing wood knocks. And then we've got a nice smattering of photos that were submitted. This looks like an interesting report. That's not me, although I wonder who this Scott is. It looks like they got some interesting photos. Maybe that's, yeah, I can see the toe prints there of the footprint. Quite interesting. And now let's do a word count. Describe your encounter. Word cloud. Heard 130 times in 2024. The word heard was used. Walking, road, tree, big. Looked, time, interestingly, is used a lot. Woods. I like looking at the data this way. It gives me avenues that I really don't think I would normally look at. Word cloud. What do we have in 2024 for our word cloud? back 14 times out of the 200 reports. Found, and this is just in the additional field, right? So there's different fields depending on how long your report is. So I analyze each one individually. Um, Another word cloud for more of the comments. Back again. Interesting. Back. What does that mean? I'll have to look at those reports that have that. All right. And then the disclaimer. Everyone should be 100%. I make everyone acknowledge the disclaimer. But so that's 2024 summed up. I'll hit the map again just as to close out. I think it's still very interesting where those hot spots were. Just soak up that image. You guys, I think there was a lot going on in 2024, but most of it was in the northeast on the East Coast. Looks like it was really hot all the way into Kentucky, all the way into Gulf Coast states, Louisiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's a big hot spot here. A lot of reports. Driftless Area National Wildlife Refuge, Wisconsin River, Harper's Ferry. That's an interesting one. It's pretty concentrated, very concentrated, big hot spot. Um, Very interesting. I think I'll publish this layer for 2024. I'll let you guys know when it's out. Check out the Instagram. I'll make a post so you know when to access it. I just made this today, so I haven't gone through all this. This is kind of the first time I'm seeing it, just like first time you guys are hearing about it and going through it with me, which I think is kind of neat. You get to see a little behind the scenes and see how I just um, digest things and find hot spots. A little bit of the analysis I do. This is just a very simple analysis, very, very simple hotspot analysis. Still very informative, very interesting. Let me know what you think. Tell me, if you've got any insight into these hotspots. But you're looking at 2024 on the map for Bigfoot. Kind of neat, right? I think it's cool to see the year in summary and understand what happened, inside the year and how Bigfoot was encountered, how many people reported where Bigfoot was most active theoretically, based on reports, I should say. So I think it's pretty cool. I just want to thank you guys for a great. I'll end on a cool note. Over the last 4 years or so, I think we've gathered a lot of data. We've made a lot of cool maps. We've done a lot of interesting things. I've met and talked to a lot of very smart, very interesting people who have been very constructive, very helpful. Um, and I just want to say thank you for that because, it really has helped me shape the project and do a lot of work that I might not otherwise have thought to do. People have helped me with interesting materials, interesting information. Thank you for submitting your reports. And here's the cool part. Last over the lifetime of this data set, so far, I just happened to see this today. So far, it's been viewed over a half a million times. That's right. You heard that right. A half a million times. People like you guys have wanted to learn more about Bigfoot and have hit the map a half a million times. So um, who knows? Maybe the next few years we get to a million. But I'm grateful for all the support. I'm happy to start off 2025 with a recap and looking forward. I think we're only going to learn more. There's a lot of big things happening in 2025. One of them I'm really excited to announce, but both of them, two of them, I'm very, very excited to announce. One is an effort I've worked on with Jonathan Dodd. I'm very excited to talk about that when we're going to do our whole big release thing. And then also, uh, talking with Les Stroud about his new documentary. So, who knows how that'll shape up? It's very early, so I don't want to presume anything. I'm just helping the best I can, and right now it's just conversation. So I think that it could shape up to be a hell of a year for Bigfoot Mapping Project and Bigfoot research in general. Um, Follow along, reach out, and most of all, good luck. And I'm gonna try in the comments vote. Um, I want to try out two nicknames for people that are following the project along and participating. The first one is Mappers. I kind of like it. Bigfoot Mapping Project, Mappers. The second one is Bumpers for Bigfoot Mapping Project, BMP, Bumpers. Mappers or Bumpers? You tell me. Uh, they're both probably great and also dad humor terrible. So I'm leaning towards Mappers. Let me know in the comments if you made it this far. Thanks for listening. It's been a pretty casual episode tonight. But, sometimes you just got to ease into the year and look back and look at what's going on in current events. Number one, that's pretty serious to start the episode off with, but I thought it was very relevant to cover that first ahead of Bigfoot because it's, affecting a lot of people. And then secondly, looking back on 2024. So thanks again and good luck in your search.
White snow, red sky, reach out for so